in their opener in Brazil, also snaps a streak of 17 consecutive wins in one-score games for Kansas City, who's bound to do some soul-searching on both sides of the ball. We begin our quest here with Emory Hunt and Ryan Wilson, set to break down some Friday Night Football in the NFL. Fellas, this was an exciting one, no doubt about it. It's hard to take your eyes off of what Justin Herbert personally accomplished in this game. 3 touchdowns, 318 passing yards, another 32 on the ground, and the one that salted it away. What did you make of his performance in this moment to start a season, coming off what was his worst performance in the NFL to end last season?
This was the best game I've seen Justin Herbert play as an NFL player because he was aggressive, he was confident, and he did it well on both ends of offense. We saw him do a fantastic job in being aggressive in the passing game, working intermediate to deeper down the field. Wasn't just checkdowns. He was working intermediate to deep. And then we saw him utilize his legs, not just of the garden variety of just scrambling and get yards, but we saw him lower his shoulder. We saw him keep his balance. We saw him go decisively when the game was on the line to get the first down to end the ball game. So this was the best game. He
missed an extra point, which he only did twice last year, and that seemed to turn the tide of momentum, and then Justin Herbert did the rest. The other thing is, I hope someone knows where Greg Roman is, because he got locked up, because all they did was throw the ball, and that is not Greg Roman's game plan as an offensive coordinator, and he put it in his franchise quarterback's hands, and we saw the results. This feels different. Do we like to overreact in week one? Absolutely. Am I guilty of doing that right now? 100%. I'm happy to do it because Justin Herbert played the way that he did. And that team, for the first time in as long as I can remember, did not look scared in the face of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid down the stretch. They took some punches, they kept their feet, and at the end of the day, we saw that play that Justin Herbert made to win it with his legs. It looked like Jalen Hurts out there, and that's a good thing when you're the Los Angeles Chargers.
Ryan's dead on because the Chargers had an answer for every Chiefs surge. Mm-hmm. So anytime the Chiefs looked like they were coming back, the Chargers had an answer. And this was all on Herbert's arm because the run game was just, it was marginal at best. And so they needed Herbert to win this ball game because it was a heavy pass script, to speak on what Ryan talked about. So Herbert really went out there and did the thing. So kudos to him, tip of my cap to him. And he really went out there on his own and with those receivers and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the open.
We know statistically Justin Herbert continues to live in rarefied air in terms of how he started his career. I've got the Chargers down for 34 attempts off the hand of Herbert. I got them down for 25 rushes, 7 of those being Justin Herbert rushes, which the lion's share were likely designed pass. So to Ryan's point, pass-heavy script here to start and maybe catching the Chiefs a little bit off guard in that regard. And I'm not here to say that 32 guys could do what Justin Herbert did tonight, but the Chiefs didn't make it too hard on him. There were gaping holes in those zone defenses, couldn't create pressure with the 4-man rush. What troubled you most about the defensive effort from the Chiefs?
Both of those things. Everything outside of Drew Tranquill, because he was playing outside of his mind right now. I love what he was doing out there. But when you think about them not being able to get pressure without blitzing, that showed up big because Herbert had all day back there to hit those intermediate and deep routes down the field. And then the secondary, just lack of communication and lack of coverage, just unaware of where you are on the field, unaware of the situation. We saw the touchdown pass where Quentin Johnson was open in the back of the end zone where he just ran past the defensive backs that was so focused on a short route by McConkey, forgetting where they were on the field. You have to communicate that, pass that off, realize where you are, and that's where Herbert really took advantage. So they couldn't get pressure, especially on the edge. And when they blitzed, they got home, but you can't always rely on.
That's the case. Najee Harris looked fine in a couple carries. Omari Hampton will learn from this mistake at the end of the first half there. Look, I don't want to overreact, but this is pretty exciting. And this feels like a team that you have to take seriously, not only because you're playing in the same division as the Chiefs, but we know the Broncos are going to be bringing it in as well.
I'm not going to call you off of any overreactions, but you went to Quentin Johnston there, so you're towing the line, Ryan Wilson. That was a fantastic performance. I want to see it a couple more times, but Justin Herbert maximizing what he has in that pass game. Ryan, I'm coming back to you here. Let's go on the Chiefs here for a moment offensively, because we saw all sorts of Mahomes magic once again, did everything he could to keep his team in this chase, but it wasn't enough. So I go back to how this game started. How did the omission of Xavier Worthy affect the play calling throughout this game in your eyes for Andy Reid?
Yeah, and I'm shaking my head because they were already down some guys at the skill position, and you just hate to see on the third offensive play you run a simple mesh route and Travis throw that Patrick Mahomes made to get the first down to Juju Smith-Schuster through 3 Chargers defenders. So he's in peak performance, midseason form. Patrick Mahomes is. Everybody else on both sides of the ball just needs to catch up.
What worries me the most, based off this one game, I know it's only one game, but it could be a potential problem, and you got to nip it in the bud right away. The run game for Kansas City has to show up. They really cannot run the football, and I think that's going to be an issue for them moving forward. If they're not without their explosive weapons, you got to have someone that you can lean on in those moments.
Mahomes led them in rushing by more than double the next closest. To your point here, if you can't establish to run, you're playing in a chase script. This is what it's going to look like.
Especially if you don't have the explosive element to really back up that coverage and back up the defense to where you can run the football. If you don't have the Hollywood Brown you can depend on, or the Xavier Worthy, and you want to lean on Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. I love Kareem Hunt's vision and footwork, but they love Isaiah Pacheco's burst and explosiveness. So they got to find a way to get that going, because we can't have Patrick Mahomes with 57 yards rushing the game, ending up with 1,000 yards on the season as a quarterback. That can't happen for Kansas City.
We say it every offseason about teams that continue to find a way in one-score games, that it's going to catch up with them eventually. This is a one-score game by definition. The Chiefs fall for the first time in 17 consecutive one-score games that they had found wins in. It was an NFL record. It comes to a stop here. Also marks the 6th divisional loss, only the 6th divisional loss in Patrick Mahomes' career. So maybe a tide is turning. We will not overreact, but this is massive confidence gained here for a Chargers team, Ryan, that has a 14-hour flight back to LA. What do they carry with them coming out of this win from a confidence standpoint?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Joe, because I was thinking about that in the third quarter when the game was still in the balance, and how typically, and that you just read the stats, the Chargers are accustomed to not necessarily 14-hour flights, but 3 to 6 hour flights, flying home after losing a tough game on the road. Again, Jim Harbaugh